Hello Battle Cats players, my name is Chance and welcome to my guide. Today we're looking at a pretty interesting unit, at least in the way that I think most people have him unlocked, but he doesn't really see a ton of use in the actual game itself. Not really because the unit itself is inherently bad, but because of how heavily it can rely on RNG, being quite the literal double-edged sword in some cases. Today we are going to be discussing none other than Bronze Cat. This rare cat is unlocked when beating Heaven of Darkness, and if you're playing Battle Cats Pop, it's available in the Gacha system, and in Battle Cats Unite, it is unlocked by beating Broton. And as always, it is my hope that throughout exploring really all there is to know about Bronze Cat, you can make a more informed decision on how to best use them, and how far to invest into them, if at all. Let's get started by first taking a look at Bronze Cat's evolutionary lineup. Starting out with the Bronze Cat itself, whose description reads, a good defensive cat with ridiculous health and very decent offensive ability, might knock back metal enemies, area attack. And then at level 10 it will evolve into Michelangelo Cat. Sucked into the world of art and mastered everything about sculpting, might knock back metal enemies, area attack. And then after completing Neo Darkness Heaven, which appears every Wednesday from 100 hours to 5900 hours, basically the whole day, you can get Quizmaster Cat. It is worth noting that on the Neo Darkness Heaven level, there are two separate stages. If you don't get them on the first one, you're guaranteed to get them on the second one. There's a difficulty increase, but both of them cost 200 energy. And Quizmaster Cat's description reads, has the longest winning streak on a popular quiz show, although the questions are pretty easy. Might knock back metal enemies, area attack. It has been a hot minute since we have talked about a cat that requires an awakening stage, so it's kind of nice to get back to the roots, but you know. Now then, let's take a look at some overall performance for Bronze Cat. First and foremost, its class is considered to be a crowd controller, which is really any unit that either inflicts a status effect or knocks back an enemy. Under pros, you have high attack rate for the normal and evolved form, high health, as well as decent range for an anti-metal in the true form. Under cons, you have a low DPS, and under other considerations, you have a 20% chance to knock back metal enemies and 30% in true form. Now, let's take a look at some strategy and check out some gameplay. Firstly, as far as cost is concerned, Chapter 1, this unit will cost 420 cents, Chapter 2, 630, and Chapter 3, 840. As far as actual strategies and use cases go, Bronze Cat is in a funny position. A lot of this is driven by the simple fact that when dealing with metal stages, the RNG can be really nuts. And having a unit like Bronze Cat around can make that RNG far more chaotic, for lack of a better term. The reason this is the case just ultimately stems down to how knockbacks work in Battle Cats. They are very much a double-edged sword. They're good in the way that they can buy you potentially more time and stop enemies from just walling you off. However, they're bad in the way that things can go awry. The most common thing that can go wrong is by knocking back an enemy, there is a nuker unit behind the whatever's doing the knockback that now misses its attack and has to restart its attack animation because the enemy was knocked out of its targeted zone. Another thing that can go wrong with knockback is if there's a potential threat or a boss enemy in the front of the lineup and you accidentally knock him back, so now you have to contend with a bunch of peons. And there are a few peons, specifically metal peons, that are kind of a pain in the neck to deal with, especially if you have a potentially high DPS unit behind them, doing obviously a lot of damage to whatever your line is consisting of. It's really strange, and while there are a couple enemies that are made far easier by the implementation of Bronze Cat, namely Metal Cyclone and Sir Metal Steel, it is kind of offset by the lack of reliability that this cat can bring to the table. That and the fact that there is a argument to be made that there are better cats for the job. As far as the true form is concerned, Quizmaster Cat is an interesting unit. It gains a little bit more range, which allows it to outrange Super Metal Hippo, which is certainly nice and makes it far more survivable. And the 10% chance to knock back in theory removes some of the RNG, but its much slower attack rate brings that RNG right back to the aforementioned state. While the fact that this cat doesn't need any cat for it to be true formed is a blessing, I actually think there might be more of a use case for it in its base form than it is, or at least the evolved form, than there is for it in the true form. Now then, let's take a look at some cat combos. First up, we have Art History. This is a resistant effect up of the small variety involving Artist Cat and Michelangelo Cat. It increases the effectiveness of the resistant trait by 10%. This is fine, I guess. It's probably not the most useful one, simply because a lot of the resistant enemies are plenty resistant and tanky enough on their own and don't really need the extra support. That being said, Artist Cat is a fairly good cat in the game, and his use case applies to quite a few different situations. So for that reason, I suppose it could make sense. But if you are going with this combo, Michelangelo Cat is more likely relegated to combo slave status. But let me know what you guys think down beneath, of course. Up next, we have Eye of the Storm. This is a unit defense up of the medium variety. It involves Bronze Cat, Rope Jump Cat, Space Cat, Clockwork Cat, and Hoop Cat. And it increases Cat's health by 20%. This is kind of meant to be the opposite of Cool Japan, at least functionally speaking. And as a result, I don't really think it's that useful. And of course, considering the fact that it's a 5-cat combo with a fairly meager payoff, there are just much better ways to do it. Now then, I'm just going to read out some trivia pertaining to Bronze Cat while showing you some of the graphs and charts pertaining to his stats. The triumphant pose Bronze Cat and Quizmaster Cat strike after attacking is the Columbia pose, a Japanese internet meme which originated from the quiz show Panel Quiz Attack 25. The blue button turning red in Quizmaster Cat's animation is done in Japanese-style quiz/game shows to symbolize the person has answered correctly. Thus, the cat is triumphing. The line, although the questions are pretty easy in Quizmaster Cat's description, can also be applied to Panel Quiz Attack 25. In fact, it became a meme because of how many easy questions the original Columbia poser got wrong despite ultimately winning. Quizmaster Cat's overall attire is reminiscent of Uncle Sam, a personification of the United States government. The color theme supports this in a way. In the Battle Cats Pop, Michelangelo is called David Cat, and in Battle Cats Unite, Bronze Cat's description states that it is a female. And now that you know what I think about Bronze Cat, let's hear what all of you had to say about him. Firstly, the ever-present bee-eater, who actually ended up changing his YouTube name to the ever-present bee-eater, and I totally take credit for that, says he is good for Metal Cyclone, and that's about it. And yeah, that's probably one of the best use cases for him for sure. Ars9 says there's one stage that requires him. It's Ashen Rain with 3 metal hippos that, if are killed, cause Assassin Bear to spam. Very cool stage. This is another interesting one for him. I'm actually so looking forward to covering the stages so I can showcase some interesting strategies. But Ars is largely correct. While in true form, Bronze Cat's ability to outrange metal hippos makes him fairly useful in stages with this design, however they are very few and far between. Cross/01 says, don't blink, did that statue move? Could be a Doctor of Philosophy. This is of course a Doctor Who reference to the Weeping Angels, which have scarred many of kids. Sismi1IQ says one of the worst critical hitters, a Mao, or in my opinion, sorry. I mean, he's not technically wrong, seeing as how the cat doesn't crit at all, so fair enough, it is one of the few anti-metal units that doesn't have a crit effect, but fair enough. And last, but certainly not least, is I'm Freaking Stupid, who says no. Fair enough, I'm assuming you mean you don't have the cat, in which case, that's fair. I don't think it's 100% necessary for any one stage, despite what Ars may say, although certainly it does make that stage in particular a little bit easier, but, you know, there are probably workarounds, and I'm looking forward to discovering them with you all. And that about wraps up all there is to say about Bronze Cat. As far as channel-related stuff goes, just want to thank everyone for helping us hit that 1,000 subscriber benchmark. Massive, by the way. Thank you all so much. I'm, of course, blown away in the short amount of time it took us to actually do this, and at the same time, thank you everyone who's contributed through commenting, liking, really anything you can do to support the channel helps out loads. With that being said, I did take the last couple days off. I meant to do some recording yesterday, but we had a thunderstorm here that was kind of nuts, and my audio for it was absolute garbage, so I had to re-record a bunch, but, you know, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I've already taken a few steps to making sure September goes off without a hitch. I will talk about them in the monthly channel breakdown video once I finish it up. But all you need to know as viewers is that the channel is going to keep going pretty steady from this point onwards, at least barring any severe tragedies. And I am, of course, very grateful and thank you for all of you who helped make this community possible. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for Cat God's blessing and your gacha rolls. And as always, guys, I will talk to you soon.